So we're going to be looking at learning outcome 3 today, Salma. So we're doing the personal effectiveness unit, and we've looked at over the past few lessons the learning outcome 1, which was understand the personal and interpersonal skills required to manage effectively. May I ask, you can see my screen, can't you? I've sent you a message and hopefully I'll get my answer soon. So we looked at learning outcome 1, and then we looked at learning outcome 2 and understand the importance of motivation for personal effectiveness. And then today we're going to look at learning outcome 3, understand how to solve problems and manage disagreements and conflict in organizations. Now, this learning outcome 3 has 4 assessment criteria. They've just been numbered wrong on here for some reason, but we'll get that sorted out. So 3.1, analyze causes of problems, disagreements, and conflict in organizations. 3.2, explain the methods that could be used to manage problems, disagreements, and conflicts. This here, it should be 3.3. Analyze the skills required to resolve conflicts, and then 3.4, analyze the problem-solving skills needed by managers. So that's what we'll be focusing on today. So I'll just make my PowerPoint bigger, and then we can start from there.
Yes, I can see your screen and I can hear you very clearly.
Fantastic, brilliant. I just remembered I hadn't asked you that. I thought I'd better ask. So we're going to look at personal effectiveness. So learning outcome 3 today is understand how to solve problems and manage disagreements and conflicts in organizations. It's a bit of a mouthful. So for 3.1, we're going to analyze the causes of problems, disagreements, and conflicts in organizations. So what are the things that cause problems and conflicts in your workplace? So organizational conflict or workplace conflict is actually is because there's a discord that happens within the work. So this means that there's some sort of problem, there's an opposition of needs, things not being met, values and interests between people might not be the same values. People might have different preferences, and this will actually cause sort of like infighting, conflicts or disagreements to happen. It will also happen when somebody feels that they want to be in a role of power or authority, and then another person is clashing with them because they're not liking that that person has that authority or that power. So it's a number of reasons. Conflicts can actually happen because of a weakness in your organization. So the weakness could be, maybe it's the character of the employee, they're not getting their directions or their tasks communicated to them properly. So you're not conversing with each other in an efficient way. You might not have enough resources. So you might not have enough like printers, laptops, or work items that you need. And then you've got the erroneous assumptions about how things are best way to be handled. So when I say erroneous, that means what you actually think. That means like error in your ways of your thinking. So you might be thinking that this is how this procedure should go, but you're thinking it wrong. That's not the way it should be done.
Right.
And then you've got conflicts. They're just disagreements that, can cause negative reactions. So not all disagreements are conflicted. So both of us, we could be working together and we could maybe not agree in a particular thing. But that doesn't mean that we're having a fight or we're not happy with each other. It just means that we're talking to each other and we're saying maybe this particular project can be handled this way, and you're saying, no, I think it's this way, but we could come to a conclusion together. So that's not as having a fight or being conflicted. Conflicted is when it's causing problems with your employees, when they're not getting along with each other, they're not working together, and it's just stopping the work from happening in general. So it's like just issues that stop you from working.
Right.
So some of the problems that are caused by these disagreements or conflicts are, so poor communication. That is one of the main causes of conflicts. So if you think you've told somebody to do some tasks, you say go and do job A, B, and C, but the other person might not have understood it and just gone and done job C. Then you're going to be cross. You're going to say, why have you not done those other two tasks? And they're going to say, but you didn't tell me properly. So you've got to make sure that you communicate properly and tell them what you want exactly. And don't just assume that they know what to do. Competition. So good competition is good is when you're working towards something. If you're saying, I'm going to make the most sales this week, or I'm going to be better than you. Good competition is good. But when it's unhealthy competition, that can cause conflict. So when you've got things like salary, a competition between why they're getting paid more, why am I not getting paid more, or when somebody is sabotaging, so ruining another person's work, that is bad competition. We've also got task interdependence. So that means where you're relying on other people to complete your own tasks. So you're working towards something, but you're going to make sure that, say, I'm saying I've got this job to do, but I need someone to do hers first, then mine will finish. So interdependence can be problematic as well. Lack of planning. It's just straightforward. If you've not planned properly, not everyone's going to know what to do. There's going to be misunderstandings, and it's going to create a lot of problems. Poor staff selection. So if you're hiring people and they're not good for the job, or they don't have the necessary experience, or even if they work together and they're having infights and they just don't like each other in general, that's going to be a big issue. So in this case, you should actually consider what your existing staff thinks and what they say. So if your staff workforce, if your team says, we do not like this person, please do not hire them, I don't like their personality, I feel something not right about them, sometimes it's best to listen to them because they're the ones that will work with that person. We've also got difference in personality. So all these things are things that will cause problems in the workplace. So when people have got different personalities, they're from different backgrounds, they've got different experiences, and maybe they just don't really understand each other or don't want to accept each other, that's going to create a problem. And then we've got frustration, stress, and burnout. So this is when people are getting frustrated, they're getting overworked, they're stressed, they're getting cross, angry, irritable in any way. They're just feeling that their needs are not being met. And they're just overly tired. It's going to cause problems. So stressful situations when someone's overly stressed, it affects other people's work as well because you're not happy to go near them, you're avoiding that person. So these types of things can cause a big issue. So all of these things that we just looked at, the 7 different points, they are things that will actually cause disagreements, conflicts, issues within your workplace. So that's just telling us exactly what it is. So you're analysing the different things that cause problems. So Matt, are you okay with 3.1 so far?
Yes, I understand everything. Thank you.
Yeah. So on 3.2, so now first we talked about the problems that can be caused and why they can be caused, how they come about. Now we're going to talk about how these can be managed. So 3.2 is explain the methods that can be used to manage problems disagreements and conflict. So like I said, workplace disagreements, conflicts, to be honest, it's a normal thing. Something or the other will come about. It'll be a small issue or it'll be a big issue, but something will always happen. There'll always be some type of problem. So there's a variety of ways that this can happen. So it can be between two employees, or it can be between the whole teams, or even supervisors and the team members. So it's either between two people, it's between full teams, so the whole team is not getting along, or it can be the person in charge of the team and their team members. So if they've got an issue with you being their leader, the work's not going to get done. So we've got something here called embrace conflict. So by embrace means just take it on and say conflict is welcome. So when conflict arises, don't avoid it. Actually make sure that you deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, the tension will build and the conflicts will normally just get worse. Because I found in experience of working in a very big work, in my whole work history, is that when you're ignoring things, when you're ignoring conflicts, what happens is you start to get angrier and angrier and more frustrated as every day goes in. You're not happy about your work environment. You just don't want to be there and you don't want to do the work for that company. But when you actually talk about it and it's, pulled head on and you know that they're asking you exactly what's the problem and you're talking with the person that there's an issue with, sometimes you might have misunderstood something, the other person might have misunderstood something, and then it can be dealt with. And it's easier to just deal with it straight away rather than let it build up and go over and over a couple of months or a couple of days. We've got find agreement. So, find an agreement between the people that have got a disagreement. So listen to all of them, find out what the issue is, and then actually see if there's something that you can find a solution to. So listen to all of their experiences and focus on the positive points rather than the negative points, and just try and find an agreement to get them to finish this conflict and work together. And another thing is to talk together. This is the best thing. So set up a time and a place where you can actually talk without any interruptions, because you want to focus on what the issue is and you want to get down to the root of the problem. So if you're able to talk with the team or talk with the person that there's a problem going on with, and then you're not getting interrupted, you've got your full attention to it, then you're able to solve this issue, or you're able to work towards solving the issue. And another thing is focus on the problem and not your opinion of the person's character. So whether or not you like that person or not, it doesn't matter. You might not like them and say, oh, they're always like this, they're always angry, they're always making faces. That doesn't matter. Find out what the problem is and focus on that. The person's character is a different thing. And then the last points on here. Listen carefully. So give your full attention. Don't interrupt the other person, because sometimes they just want to talk and let off their steam. Give them guidance. So you're in a leadership position, so it's your job to mediate any conflict. So don't take any sides, and just, at the end, you're just there to get them to do their work, and you're there to look after them. So you need to figure out what their problem is, talk to them, give them guidance, and try and get it solved. And then also be quick to forgive. So if there's a problem and it needs to be sorted out quickly, sometimes you might have your feelings might be hurt. Sometimes the other person's feelings might be hurt. They might have had a problem with you. You might have had a problem with them. You might have said something to each other without realizing how upset the other person might be. But at the end of the day, you're going to be working together. It's easier to forgive it and get on and try and get along rather than just keep it in you and not be happy with that person. So be quick to forgive. That's the best point. So that was 3.2. So we looked at how problems can occur and the issues that happen with them. And now we've looked at how they can be managed. Then we're going to look at some skills that you need to resolve conflict. So 3.3 is analyze the skills required to resolve conflicts. So are you okay with what we've gone through so far, Salma?
I understand everything. Thank you.
Yeah. It's quite straightforward, isn't it? It's a nice unit, this one. And then, so there's...
These are actually, you've been dealing all these situations in day-to-day life. So they are just self-explanatory, you know. So
yeah, exactly. And it's just common sense, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on here, we're just going to look at some skills that are good for resolving conflicts. So quick stress relief. So get a stress relief, get those little balls that you can squeeze, or find a thing that you can relieve yourself from stress. So employees, they need necessary tools to manage their emotions, as well as the ability to cope with frustrations in the workplace. So you give them a few minutes. Tell them if you're feeling frustrated, go have a coffee break. Go have a little walk outside. 5 minutes of their time spent just figuring out how to relieve their stress is better than them spending a whole day building it up. Assertiveness. So make sure that you're assertive so that you are saying, right, this is my views. You're telling them exactly what needs to be done. You're speaking to them clearly and firmly, but you're not being aggressive. So describe the situation, express your feelings, and then specify what you want done is a one model that we use here. Then emotional awareness. So make sure that you're comfortable enough to react to other people's emotions. So if you don't like somebody who might burst out in tears, if you're not comfortable with people crying, you need to try and overcome that. Some people might get emotional and they might start yelling and shouting. So you need to understand that maybe that this person everything has just gotten a bit too much for them. So they just need this outburst and then it'll calm down. So if you don't know how you feel or why you feel that way, if you're feeling upset and frustrated or angry, if you're not sure why you feel that way, you're not going to be able to communicate yourself or resolve any disagreements. So be comfortable with your own emotions, and that will help you with others. And then we've got communication. So everybody needs to be able to talk to each other. So you're talking about what the conflict is, why it happened, how you can get it sorted out. So strong communication is you're talking to each other, but part of communication that people forget about is you need to actually listen as well. So from what I've seen is that when you talk about communication, and on the many communication units that I teach, whenever I ask the question, what is communication? Everybody will say it's talking with each other, and that's it. They always forget that you need to make sure that you listen as well. So you need to know what the other person is saying to you so you can respond in the proper way. And then state your cause tactfully. So that means be diplomatic. Don't just burst things out. So the key to this is to help people understand your perspective. So you don't want to make them feel defensive. So you don't want to say, right, this is what you should have done. You can't just burst out them. So you say, well, I think that maybe this thing could have been dealt in a different way. So you try and be diplomatic, try and stay the middle person in it. You don't want to get involved in the argument. You don't want to take a side of someone, but you want to let them know exactly what can be done and how it needs to get done. And then the last point for how to resolve conflicts is teamwork. So work with your team. So we've got lots of personalities in a team. Everybody is different. Everyone's got a different opinion. They've got different lifestyles, different cultures. So people are used to working in different ways. They've got different priorities. So when different individuals don't understand somebody else's behavior, that can stop the team from functioning properly. So you've got to just work together, try and get along, and just understand each other so that you can have a successful team function. So this will actually help you to avoid any sort of conflict or reoccurrence within the workplace. So that was 3.3. Was that fine, Soma? Do you have any questions? So are you okay with this so far?
Yes, I understand everything. Actually, on the web, it takes a little while to unmute, so it just gives
Oh, it's
a
okay.
few seconds.
No worries. So that's good. I'll
Yeah.
go on to the last point.
My stress relief is going to a gym or listening to just teaching. I love just teaching. That relieves my stress really quickly.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Brilliant. So we'll work on to 3.4 then, yeah?
Okay.
Oh, it was hiding from me. We still have one more. So overall, before we go into 3.4, so manage your stress quickly. Make sure you're alert and calm. Control your own emotions and behavior. Pay attention to other people's feelings that are being expressed, and be respectful of differences. So that's an overview of 3.3. And then we're going to analyze the problem-solving skills needed by managers. So on here, we're going to look at the different skills that are needed. So normally, what problem-solving skills are reactive. So something's happened and you're reacting to that problem. So what you're doing is you're applying things that you've already looked at to existing problems once they've been identified. But then that can actually help you to be proactive. So if you've realized this existing problem, this problem is always coming up, maybe you can put something in place to reduce that issue in the first place. So things like asking key questions about existing situations. So even if there is no obvious problem at that time, if you think about it, if you question things, question your staff, and then you can find out exactly why something happened, and maybe you can find out why and how to resolve it. So a fundamental part of every manager's role is finding ways to solve the problems. So you've got to be a confident problem solver, and that is extremely important to your success as a manager. So when you're confident and you have a good process about how to approach problems, that will actually help you to identify and maybe even stop those problems or reduce those problems from happening quickly and effectively. So we've got an overview of the important skills that you need to be a successful manager. So transparency and communication. So be open, be transparent. So don't have any boundaries in your organization. So welcome your team members, welcome their views. So be open about what you're saying. So you can have cross-functional collaboration, so where you're working cross teams, and you've got a good problem-solving attitude towards the whole entire team. So what will happen is, if they know that you're open and that you're easy to approach, they will come to you and they will tell you what problem they're having quite straight away. Actually, they're not going to be waiting for ages and ages just to try and think, oh no, I don't want to approach her, maybe she's not going to be happy. So if you're open-spirited, if you embrace your employees and say, right, you can come to me, they will come to you and they will tell you what the problem is, and then you can sort it out in a very efficient manner. Have a strong initiative and leadership. So being a good communicator is really good, but you need to actually be a self-starter. So you need to have initiative within yourself. So no matter what change there is in the organization, it can be big or small, you need to make sure that you have the initiative to actually be able to do it and to justify the recommendations that you're making. So we've got something of creativity and lateral thinking ability. So this just means where if managers got the capacity, they've got the thinking within themselves to think in lateral ways, so in multiple ways, and they can draw like lots of different bits of information. They can pull them in and they can think of new solutions or new actions that might need to be taken to maybe expand the business or to even solve any basic problems or big problems that happen on a daily basis. And then you've got judgment skills and perception. So this is when it's just when a person, a manager, has a clear view of how they can judge people. So if you've been working with people for a very long time, if you've been interviewing someone, for example, if you want to hire someone or you've got people in your team, once you've been dealing with so many people over a long time, you end up creating a good judgment. So you know, is this person actually good for my company? Is this person good for my team? Are we going to be able to work together? You're going to be able to judge what you're wanting to do, what actions you're wanting to take your business towards. Is this a good step for us? So you need to develop your judgment. And then within that, even though you're developing judgment, you need to sometimes take risks as well. So you need to be able to take reasonable and considered risks. So what I mean by that is risk not in just, we'll just throw our money at this development, let's see what happens. You need to think of the positives and the negatives of the action that you're taking, and then consider, is this reasonable? Is this a risk that we can actually take? Will this risk pay off? You need to, judge whether or not this is fine or not. And that will help you either take advantage of an opportunity or say, no, thank you, it's fine, maybe next time. And then strategizing skills. So, many professionals, they actually look at dissecting a problem. So what they do when I say dissecting, they try and break up a problem. So rather than identifying what the strategy needs to be to change the problem itself, they just look at breaking it up and seeing what it was. So what you need to do is, it's a good thing to find out why a problem occurred, but you also need to be able to put a strategy in place where you can try and eradicate that problem itself. So those people who are comfortable with problem solving, they always know how to get the right people or resources or even knowledge from their past experiences. So it helps you to put in effect an action plan where you can get rid of problems or even just reduce them, or even actually spot them as they're about to occur. You can say, right, I've got a feeling this will happen if we do this, this and that, and then try and put strategies in place to avoid that. And then critical thinking ability. So this is where it refers to a manager's capacity to think vigorously and broadly about issues. So where they're actually thinking about what's happening, will this work out or not, and they're looking at it in a broader scale. They're not just looking at it, how is it beneficial to us right now. They're seeing what the effects of these issues or challenges or problems might be, and if it's going to be optimal for us to go down that route, or if you can find any solutions that might work to help us go down that route. And then there's big picture thinking ability. So that is where you're not just thinking about small tasks, you're thinking about the whole picture of how your tasks, how your responsibilities, how the projects that you take on, how they'll help your company to grow or how they'll help your organizational to grow. So you've got to think about it in the way of your business or your commercial impact and what sort of issues or challenges that might come, and also how to react in the correct way. So you're doing an overall picture of what could happen. And then we've got analytical skills. So this is just to refer to a manager's ability to evaluate large or complex situations. So what they're doing is they're evaluating quite a complex situation, but they're looking at it in a logical way, looking at it in a systematical way. So they're breaking, again, like I said, they're breaking down their tasks. They're thinking, is this the best way to deal with this? They're going to identify any critical issues or any major factors, and they're going to see what will need to be dealt with, and they're going to work in that way. So this is them analyzing any future problems or any potential problems that might be caused. So overall, managers can actually managers can actually sort out their problem-solving skills. They can brainstorm activities. They can do mind mapping, where they're thinking, what step will take me to the other. They can approach everyday issues with like, what if we did this? What if that was to be implemented? And that's them testing new approaches. They can keep an idea journal, so you can put down all of your ideas. Even if they're really crazy ideas, you can pop them down, and maybe at one time it will actually work. There will be an opportunity where you can do that. Also, a good way to develop your own. Someone just dropped out. I'll wait for her to rejoin back in. Hi, Soma, are you back? Fantastic. Can you hear me properly? Okay, fantastic. What I'll do is, I'm not sure how much you've seen from the slide, so I'll just quickly go over from A, just in case you dropped out at the beginning. So like I was saying, practice brainstorming activities, so mind map. Approach everyday issues with a what-if mentality. So think, what if we do this? What if we do that? How will this help us? Keep a journal where you can put all of your ideas down, good, bad, crazy, whatever. Even practice doing puzzles, like we can do Sudoku, you can do number puzzles. It's just things to develop your own problem-solving skills. So there's many, like word searches, everything. And then also make sure that you're following industry publications. So any of the magazines or emails or any sort of paperwork that letters, newsletters, leaflets that you receive, look through them and see if somebody else has got any problem-solving things. Because I know in my field, I get a lot of like a monthly magazine where it has articles in it telling me about how I can best sort out remote learning, especially now that we've got these situations going on in the world and everybody's remote learning, tips, techniques, so it's really nice to actually make sure you look at your industry publications. And then there are 4 basic steps to summarize in solving a problem. So define the problem, generate any alternative ideas, evaluate and select alternative ideas, and implement the solutions. So you're finding out what the problem is, figuring out any other ways you can sort these out or any other systems you can put into place, looking at them and selecting at them. So you're evaluating them, you're selecting them, you're seeing, will this alternative actually work, or is this going to create more problems? And then actually putting them into place. And that was 3.4. So we've looked at, let's go back into here. So we've looked at analyzing the problems. We've looked at explaining how they could be managed. We've looked at analyzing the skills required to resolve conflicts. And then we've analyzed the problem-solving skills needed by managers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the recording off now. And then if you have anything to ask or